The big cats have fascinated man since the beginning of time. Not surprising, for when man first appeared, they were already established as the dominant carnivores. The big cats were the hunters, and humans part of their prey. So fear and consequent reverence for these expert predators was established in prehistoric times, a fear and reverence that gave birth to the myth and magic that in some form or other have survived to this day. And by examining how the big cats have influenced man's thinking, culture, and even history, we may have to conclude that we are not as dissimilar from our cave-dwelling ancestors as we would like to think. The first big cats man came into contact with may have been the saber-toothed cat. The Smilodons, the most prolific New World species, were still living in California as late as 13,000 years ago, and 30,000 years old fossils of the lesser scimitar cat were found in the Robin Hood Cave in Derbyshire, England. Though a fierce-looking animal, the saber-toothed cat was cumbersome and rather dim-witted, and had to give way to the more intelligent early lions, tigers, and leopards. These latecomers were extremely successful predators and could be found almost anywhere on Earth. Lions ranged across Europe, Asia, and through North America into Alaska, as well as Africa. 50,000 years ago, lions were roaming the banks of the Thames, and the Persian king Xerxes was attacked by lions when invading Greece as late as 480 BC. Tigers could originally be found right across Asia, including Japan, and the leopard's habitat combined the Old World territories of both the tiger and the lion. The term the big cats isn't just a reference to size. There is a generic difference within the cat family with two main groups: Panthera, most of the big cats, and Felis, most of the smaller cats. Then there are two smaller groups, Acinonyx for the cheetah and Neophelis for the clouded leopard. A distinct difference between Panthera and Felis that place the species within its group is a number of bones that link the larynx to the skull. Panthera has a section of flexible cartilage within these bones which allows them to roar. The smaller cat's bones are ossified, leaving them with a high-pitched scream, an important factor when examining how the big cats are perceived by man. More subtle generic differences are of no consequence. What counts is impact. Apart from the mentioned roar, the most noticeable feline characteristics are similar, whether we observe Panthera, Felis, or any other group of species. They're all carnivorous and specialist hunters. They rear their young in much the same manner, and the existing skeleton differences are too small to be noticed by most non-scientists. We saw how prolific the big cats were when the first contact with man was made. But over the millennia, their habitat has shrunk considerably, a shrinking that has accelerated during the 20th century to the point where the very survival of the big cats is threatened unless urgent preservation measures are taken immediately. The tiger in India and Siberia is being hunted to almost extinction because of belief in its magical powers. The habitat of the lion and leopard in Africa is slowly but surely disappearing. The South American jaguar is suffering the same fate, and even the cougar, or mountain lion in North America, is under threat. If we compare the big cat's original habitat to what is now left, the difference is more than dramatic. Those are the extremes. Almost world domination when man first made his appearance, and on the edge of oblivion today. Considering the enormous time span the felines have survived, the possibility of imminent extinction is obscene. 50-million-year-old fossils of an animal, the Dinictis, showing similarities to the modern cat family, have been found. It was about the size of a large wild cat and had cat-like teeth, but a much smaller brain than the modern cat. The Dinictis developed in two separate directions. One became early saber-toothed cats, and the other eventually produced the modern cat. Fossils some 12 million years old are even more like the skeletons of smaller modern cats, and 3 million years ago the felines, as we know them today, were established. The earliest archaeological find linking man and the big cats is a small sculpture of a feline head from Germany, dating back to approximately 30,000 BC. Other evidence of man's early contact with the big cats was discovered by accident in 1940, when a group of boys, playing in the countryside close to Lascaux in southwest France, stumbled on the now world-famous caves. The investigation of these and the nearby Nio caves revealed a virtual treasure of prehistoric art dating back some 14,000 years. Most of these paintings were of animals that were a source of food, like deer with massive antlers, horses in full flight, mammoths, goats, bison, and even rhinos. But the prehistoric artists also painted large felines that resemble cave lions. The pictures were either etched into the walls or painted onto the rocks with primitive paints, predominantly in red, orange, and black. That these primitive yet forceful pictures have survived the passage of time is due to the extreme dry atmosphere of the caves. Lascaux is only one of several places where cave paintings have been found. In fact, even older paintings have been found in Ruffignac, and the caves in Altamira in northern Spain have paintings dating back more than 16,000 years. It is not surprising that lions are found in an area rich with game, but the significance of the paintings is still obscure. The dominant animal symbol in the earliest known civilizations, a sign of power and virility, was the bull. The Taurine cult lasted through to later civilizations in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece. Could these cave paintings be an indication of a major cultural change? Well, the big cats did replace the bull. As the cattle became increasingly domesticated, the Taurine cult gave way to the feline culture. However, this change is generally believed to have happened later than the time the early cave artists did their magnificent work. An example of things to come is the bull motif on this Cretan vase. So the lion, leopard, cheetah, and eventually even the domestic cat gradually replaced the bull as the universal symbol of nature's wild and fearful power. Even in some of the Taurine cult's old world strongholds, such as the aforementioned Mesopotamia and Egypt. Though there is no evidence the tiger or any of the other big cats came into contact with man quite as early as the lion, old Chinese crockery has been found with pictures of tigers dating back to 800 BC. Similar evidence links the leopard and the cheetah to early African tribes, and the jaguar to South American civilizations, particularly the Incas and the Aztecs. In no culture, ancient or new, have the big cats played a more important role than in the Egyptian lions, leopards, and cheetahs, which were all richly represented throughout Egypt's long history. The lion was the first of the big cats to become a dominating symbol of power in early Egyptian civilization. A slate palette dated 3100 BC shows two lions with their necks intertwined, representing the joining of the kingdoms of the Upper and Lower Nile, an event that unified Egypt and established the first dynasty of rulers. The lion's integration into a symbolic world was indicative of things to come. In the famous Sphinx at Giza, just outside Cairo, dated approximately 2600 BC, the Egyptian ruler Khafra or Khafra is portrayed with the body and hence power of a lion. This was later seen as a representation of the sun god since, by then, the pharaohs were considered gods. Lions and other members of the cat family ceased to be mere symbols, but became the forms in which many important deities would appear. The sun god Ra was often depicted as a lion, sometimes with the head of a hawk. His three daughters, Tefnet, Sekhmet, and Bast, also appeared as lions, though the latter frequently took the shape of the domestic cat. Even Ra himself is occasionally shown as a cat. The appearance of the domestic cat was a result of pragmatism rather than belief. The African wildcat was, unlike its European cousin, easily domesticated and became an increasingly popular pet. If you couldn't keep your god in the shape of a lion around the house, a friendly and manageable cat must have been a reasonably attractive alternative. Sekhmet had two distinct sides to her character. As a lion-headed goddess, she was the creator and nourisher of the world and the protector of women. But as Hathor, the Eye of Ra, she took the shape of a lion to massacre men that rebelled against Ra. She was apt to lose control, and Ra was afraid that in her fury she would destroy everybody, so he begged her to stop, but to no avail. To save the people, Ra brewed 7,000 jugs of a magic potion made from pomegranate juice and beer, which Sekhmet mistook for human blood, and drank until she became too drunk to continue the slaughter. Each year on her feast day, a similar brew was made to keep the peace. The savage image of the lion is still in evidence. Sekhmet's sister Tefnet and her husband-brother Shu were the celestial lions. As gods of air and of moisture, they held up the sky to separate it from earth. The sky was actually their daughter Nut, and earth their son Geb, a sort of family business. Of Ra's daughters, Bast undoubtedly had the highest profile. She was the leading deity at Bubastis, a city on the Nile Delta that became Egypt's capital around 950 BC. The name Bubastis means the house of Bast. Bast is known in two forms, as a lion, or, more often, as a lion-headed goddess. Bast was associated with the warmth of the sun and happiness, and was thought to be rather fond of dancing. When depicted as a cat or lion-headed goddess, she is often seen holding a sistrum, a musical instrument similar to a wire rattle. It was the representation of Ra's daughters that saw the lion being replaced by the domestic cat, a change more noticeable in Bast than in either of her sisters. It is certain, as mentioned, that ability to domesticate the wild cat played an important role in this change. Maybe the cats were seen as symbolic lions, purely for the sake of convenience, since cats were raised within the temple of Bubastis. As sacred animals, their behavior was interpreted by priests, who gave advice and warnings to the congregation. The care of these sacred cats was a very special honor that passed from father to son. The temple cats benefited greatly from their big cousin's exalted position. When an Egyptian wanted a favor from Bast or any other feline god, he would partly shave the head of his child. The shaved hair was weighed, and the equivalent weight in silver would be given to the priest, who would purchase fish for the silver and give this to the sacred and pampered animals. Ra and his daughters are just some Egyptian gods represented by the lion and, subsequently, the domestic cat. Particular areas, trades and phenomena had their own gods, though these often were Ra and daughters given local names. Independent gods and goddesses were in abundance. Acre, an early god of the earth, had no less than 2 lions' heads. Geb, a later earth god, Mut, god of the skies, Mihos, son of Ra and Bast, and Bes, the god of marriage, have all taken Leonid forms at some time or other. Though the lion was the most important of the big cats in Egyptian religion, it was by no means the only one. Both the cheetah and particularly the leopard had an important place, evidenced by many of the treasures found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. One of the first items seen by archaeologists Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon, entering the tomb on November 26, 1922, was a gilded figure of the boy king riding on top of a black leopard. The leopard is believed to have had a ritual significance, symbolizing in some way the dead pharaoh's power to triumph over hardship on his voyage through the underworld into a perpetual afterlife. Other finds in Tutankhamun's tomb include a funeral bed supported by felines with lapis blue glass inserted below the eyes, identifying them as cheetahs. Tutankhamun's magnificent golden throne is supported by lions' feet and adorned with lions' heads, and two figures are being carried on the back of two big cats, most likely leopards. Whilst the big cats had a special and important place in Egyptian society, particularly for the pharaohs, their elevated status isn't solely an Egyptian phenomenon. Examples can be found within many civilizations throughout history. However, if we stay a while longer in the cradle of civilization, the Middle East, we can observe a subtle change in the role of the big cats, mainly the lion for obvious geographical reasons. They gradually lost their status as deities and reverted to being symbols of status, office, and of their own known qualities, courage, strength, and nobility. But they were still, as they were to the cave dwellers, frightening predators with unknown powers capable of arousing man's fear. When the Assyrian kings hunted lions in North Africa, in what is now the Sudan, the slaying was thought to imbue the hunter with the qualities of the conquered animal. But the symbolism went further. The ivory carving from the Tigris, showing lion killing, is thought to represent the Assyrian king's victory over his enemies. Babylon has more concrete evidence of the presence and importance of lions than the biblical story of Daniel in the lion's den. Finds dated approximately 600 BC include the procession street leading to the Ishtar Gate. The walls flanking the street have some 120 tiles with pictures of lions thought to represent the bravery of the warriors defending the city. Returning and supposedly victorious armies parading down Procession Street would eventually come to Ishtar Gate. Another, though slightly different example, can be seen in a Persian cylindrical seal dated some 100 years later, depicting King Darius on a lion hunt. Defeating the mighty lion elevated the king, and he took on the qualities of the conquered animal. Now the lion is again approaching the status of deity, though we may put this particular example down to King Darius's particular position as a very powerful ruler. However, the general evidence from Middle Eastern and Mediterranean civilizations indicate that the lion, and indeed other big cats, were no longer revered as deities, but symbols of mythical powers and abilities. The lion had a significant place when Zoroastrianism became the dominant religion in Persia, representing fire. When the Arabs, centuries later, brought Islam to the country, this new religion adopted many of the old symbols. The lion became the guardian of water and of life itself. As a result, the lion form is frequently used in fountains and bathhouse fittings. Actually, the Persian word for lion also means water tap. The fountain in the Court of the Lion in Alhambra, Spain, is an excellent example of this Islamic tradition. Looking again at the map of the big cat's habitat, we can see that the lion was still prolific in, amongst other places, ancient Greece, and it is therefore not surprising that we find them as part of Greek culture. Since the subsequent Roman civilization overlapped, and to a large degree adopted Greek tradition and religion, the position of the big cats continued in Roman society. The hero Heracles is the most renowned of all Greek lion killers. In fact, quite a few of our civilization's earliest heroes were slayers of lions. This is part of a tradition that goes back to the time when man first made weapons in order to defend himself and for hunting. Samson, the Israelite, was famed for defeating lions with his bare hands, and the Sumerian hero Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, killed the lions that guarded the pass to Mount Marshu on the road to paradise. Heracles, in a fit of madness brought on by the goddess Hera, killed his wife and children. The oracle in Delphi sentenced him to perform 12 labors as penance, the first requiring him to kill the lion that lived outside the city of Nemea on Peloponnesus. Unfortunately, the lion's skin was impregnable to weapons, so Heracles had to fight it hand to claw until he managed to strangle the beast, as depicted on this glazed vase from approximately 560 BC. Heracles is always seen depicted clad in lion's skin, also making him invulnerable. A direct link between the Greeks and the Romans' reverence for the big cats can be seen in this statue of the insignificant and little-known Roman Emperor Commodus, who liked to be portrayed as Hercules, the lion's helmet being the significant symbol. Other big cats also link Greece and Rome. The leopard, for example. This intricate and very beautiful Roman mosaic from Paphos in Cyprus shows the Greek god Dionysus being transported in a chariot drawn by a leopard, and a mosaic from Rome shows a Roman warrior fighting a leopard with a spear. That the lion has been singled out as the most formidable of the big cats is very much an old world bias. During the Qin dynasty in China, the tiger was frequently seen portrayed together with the yin and yang symbol. In Chinese mythology, the tiger represented the celestial direction west and was here king of all animals. Its season was autumn, and its element was metal, again a symbol of strength and nobility. The Chinese also imbued the tiger with very special powers: healing, aphrodisiac, strength, fertility, and so forth. Unfortunately, these powers were and are linked directly to the animal and are not merely symbolic. The result is that even today, approaching the 21st century, potions or medicine derived from the tiger are still in great demand in China and parts of Southeast Asia. This demand for tigers can sadly be seen today in the great amount of poaching going on in, amongst other places, Siberia. Despite a total ban on the hunting of tigers, the Siberian tiger, the largest of the species, is now close to extinction. It is proving exceedingly difficult to effectively stop the killing of tigers, as virtually any product derived from them commands enormous prices. Prices high enough for unscrupulous individuals, risking large fines or even jail. Despite the importance of the tiger, the lion also occupies a significant place in Far Eastern culture. An outstanding example are the magnificent golden lions flanking the stairway in the Forbidden City in Beijing. Another good example is the famed lion dance, which can be seen in virtually every large Chinese community all over the world, from San Francisco to Hong Kong. It might be argued that the lion's high profile in China, East Asia and India may be due to religious and cultural influence from predominantly Persia, as this at least offers some explanation why the most prolific big cat of the area, the tiger, hasn't dominated. It is interesting that when the ancient Indian king Ashoka created Shoka pillars as a base for his writing, the most beautiful and today the best preserved of these pillars was adorned with 4 intricately carved lions. Is it possible that in the traditional home of the tiger, the lion symbolizes brains rather than brawn? The Americas, predominantly Central and South America, also had a big cat cult. Lions and tigers were here replaced by jaguar, puma, and to a lesser degree, leopard. Amongst the Aztecs, the jaguar was a symbol of authority, and its claws and teeth were often worn as a sign of honor. Mayan and Inca artifacts show representation of both jaguar and leopard, though we are not quite aware of their religious significance. The jaguar's skin was also in demand amongst the Indo-Americans, to the point where the Aztecs used it for trade purposes as well as a sign of power. Besides the examples shown, there are numerous illustrations throughout history how leaders and thus royalty have been associated with the big cats, and no example is more obvious than Richard Lionheart. This popular English king made his mark on history during the Crusades in the 12th century. Numerous battles with the Saracens' noble leader Saladin, where he showed great bravery, earned him the honorary name Lionheart. His subsequent capture and long period as a hostage only served to enhance his reputation. King Richard is probably best known as the absent monarch and brother of the evil King John in the legend of Robin Hood. It is hardly surprising that Africa has its fair share of kings or chiefs that have been associated with the big cat. The attributes of the lion or the leopard were obviously important to a tribal leader, not least to traditional warrior tribes, notably the Zulus of southern Africa. Even today we can see their chief, Buthelezi, adorned with leopard skin as sign of office. The late Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya often wore a ceremonial leopard skin sash, and President Mobutu is rarely seen without his leopard skin hat. The most famous African royal personality was the late Emperor of Ethiopia, the Honorable Rastafari Haile Selassie, the Lion of Judea, an exalted title that goes back centuries, and one that more than any illustrates how this big cat is seen as, of all beasts, a regal animal. As a curiosity, it should be mentioned that the French statesman Clemenceau was popularly known as the Tiger, a name he earned as a result of the hard, almost ferocious stance he took against the Germans during the Versailles Treaty negotiations after the First World War in 1918. The lion's position as a regal animal is evidenced by more than African chiefs and ancient history. The very spirit of Great Britain is symbolized by the British lion, and the lion is a dominant and integral part of the British monarchy, popularized by, amongst other things, the fact that the British lion can be found on current English and Old Empire coins. The lion's reputation as the regal cat is further enhanced by being associated with the majority of the remaining European monarchies, notably the 3 Scandinavian countries, namely Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. From the late 12th century to the present day, the Norwegian coat of arms, with the battle-axe-wielding lion, has remained unchanged. While the battle-axe is the traditional Norwegian weapon symbolizing St. Olav, the lion is, again, a symbol of power. The Danish coat of arms is based on King Canute's royal seal, of which the earliest preserved example dates back to 1190. The Swedish coat of arms dates from approximately 1440, when first used as a seal by King Carl Knutsson Bonde. The lions also here represent the monarch. There is then an unbroken line from the early cave paintings through the ancient worlds of Persia, Egypt, Greece, Rome, the Far East and the Americas, through to the present day, where the big cats can be seen to have had a significant influence on man's religious and cultural life. There have been changes, certainly, from fearful beast competing with man for food, to worship deities and symbols of factual or imaginary qualities enhancing the status of individuals or institutions. However, it can often be difficult to observe when and how these transitions took place. Though the role of the big cats have changed over the millennia, they do appear to have an undiminished ability to touch us, and they are still very much part of our lives. Even today, imaginary qualities such as nobility, courage, and regality are as real as the more factual qualities like strength, speed, and ferocity. The truth is that we do not really distinguish between imaginary or factual qualities. The gemstone tiger's eye got its name from the tiger's powerful sight. Tiger balm is an old Nepalese herbal medicine that soothes away pain. It is powerful yet comforting. The Tamil tigers did not adopt their name because of their peaceful intentions. And the fact that leopard's bane is a thistle-like plant is hardly surprising. The 16,000-year-old myth is still surviving. The big cats have even become part of our language. Just think of reasonable everyday phrases like being lionized, an engine purrs like a cat, brave as a lion or swift as a cheetah. The leopard doesn't change its spots, getting the lion's share, fierce as a tigress. The examples are numerous. That the myths about the big cats are often universal can be seen in the light-hearted fable of the stone lion and the virgin. The story goes that should a virgin pass a granite lion, it will turn to flesh and blood and signal this auspicious event with a loud roar. It is not clear where this fable comes from, but it is repeated throughout Europe, whether the lions are part of national monuments, like the Tower of London and the St. Mark's in Venice, or modest sculptures framing the entrance to a local pharmacy. The lions in the tale of the Virgin are male. In Egyptian mythology, the big cats were frequently female. That there are a few thousand years between the two examples is less important than the fact that there virtually always is a strong gender distinction when using the big cat's attributes, strongly male or female. That, and the inescapable fact that power is a strong aphrodisiac, may have helped to promote a sexy image. A sexy image is a powerful feature in a civilization where sex is taboo. Sex helps the big cats to impose themselves, and it is maybe more understandable that they've been able to sustain their general attraction and to make their mark on human current activities such as literature, sport, the arts, commerce, and film. The filmmaking communities in Hollywood and elsewhere have indeed made good use of the big felines. In Cat People from 1942, Simone Simon is a beautiful Yugoslav girl that believes she can turn into a panther. The point of interest in this film is, of course, that the girl and the panther are synonymous. Burt Lancaster's title role in Visconti's 1963 film The Leopard shows him as the patriarch of an ancient noble Italian family during the time of Garibaldi. This symbolic use of the leopard does no more than uphold old traditions. Other cat titles, from drama through comedy to thrillers, include films such as Leopard in the Snow, The Black Cat, The Lion Has Wings, The Tiger Makes Out, The Wind and the Lion, A Lion in Winter, and The Young Lions, to name just a few. The last three pictures were all produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, whose MGM logo from 1924, featuring Leo the Lion, and carrying the slogan, Ars Gratia Artis, loosely translated as art for art's sake, is probably the most famous film ident ever. An emerging consumer society was also quick to recruit the big cats to their cause, as manufacturers of all sorts of products realized that they could benefit greatly by associating with these felines. After all, they came with a ready-made and multifaceted image that could be turned to virtually any use. One of the earliest examples of such a beneficial association is the German brewery Löwenbräu, literally meaning lion's brew. This august establishment was founded in the 17th century, and their lager has carried the image of a lion ever since. Built up an enviable reputation, both as a luxury road car and in racing. Though the racing success started many years ago, the Jaguar has enjoyed a revival, winning the 24-hour Le Mans race a number of times in recent years. Jaguar has also produced more true classic cars than most other car manufacturers in the world. The association between the big cats and speed is also found in Sir Henry Seagrave's 230-mile-per-hour record breaker, the Golden Arrow, fitted with the 930 horsepower 12-cylinder Napier Lion engine, or in the popular and very fast Sunbeam Tiger. The French car, Peugeot, is recognized by the prancing lion logo. Founded as a family firm in the last century, Peugeot started out manufacturing steel tools like plowshares and saws, and adopted the lion to convey an image of strength and durability. When the old firm expanded to include car manufacturing, it was under the name Lion Peugeot. True to the name, the car soon gained a reputation for durability and performance, doing extremely well in early rallies, like the legendary Peking Paris race. Peugeot's use of the lion in their advertising campaigns has made an even stronger association between the products and its feline namesake.
Has been acclaimed
The magic is still a useful tool.
The Peugeot 309 GTI has been voted the best performance hatchback you can buy.
A less pleasant association for the large felines is with the arms industry. Power, speed, and ferocity are ideal attributes for their line of destructive product. Tiger tanks, Jaguar fighter planes, Cougar gunboats, and earlier the Tiger Moth, to name a few. Even more unfortunate is the fact that this association helps to make the product acceptable, when it should instill the same fear the caveman felt when first confronted by a starving lion. Sport, a more peaceful pursuit, has elements similar to those incorporated in waging war: confrontation, need for superiority, and application of strategy. It follows that sport is often associated with the big cats. Teams, individuals, and not least manufacturers of sports equipment and clothing have benefited from the myth. Though we have Tiger rackets, Cheetah shoes, and Jaguar footballs, Puma sportswear is undoubtedly the best-known product within this category. This German manufacturer has made the name Puma synonymous with sport. The leaping Puma logo shows clearly this big cat's characteristics. The stylized design exudes power, speed, agility, and elegance. This commercial, featuring world champion hurdler Colin Jackson, is typical of how the manufacturers promote the product. Though power and speed are central, cross-cutting and extreme angles transcend reality. Even in a pragmatic world, the Puma adds magic, possibly supporting a subliminal belief that by using this product, some of the big cat's properties are transferred to the user. Such transfer is not infrequent in sport. Do we believe that we, by association, can benefit from animals' magical powers? Of course not, and yet, there are obvious signs that man's ancient beliefs change a great deal slower than man's technology, and that the sports team with, for example, a tiger adage, really feel that this is more than just imaginative advertising. An American footballer, a member of the Detroit Lions, putting on his kit was quoted, "I know it sounds strange, but sure I change. I almost become a lion." American footballers are not exactly known for their romanticism. They're hardened professionals, and yet just as susceptible to influence by the big cats as the early cave artists some 14,000 years earlier. When the Cardiff Tigers hit the ice, are they more than flesh and blood? Will the baseball neighbors to the Detroit Lions, the Tigers, hit the ball with that extra strength because of their chosen name? Most probably. The rugby union sides, the British Lions and the Pumas from Argentina, may perform with a little more conviction, and their supporters might be more likely to believe in their ability to conquer. Endowing our heroes with special cat qualities is practiced even today. As mentioned earlier, Clemenceau was popularly known as the Tiger. The English Formula One world champion, Nigel Mansell, always showing determination and courage on the track, is affectionately known as Lionheart amongst his fans. Not that different from the lion killers of ancient Persia. In view of what we've seen so far, it must be a natural progression that the big cats should be used by advertisers, corporate image makers and designers. Though used for films, the MGM lion is also the corporate logo, and as such one of the most successful ever devised, and it has been copied using domestic cats and other animals many times. It is doubtful if any other insignia has conjured up quite as much magic and enchantment. Certainly, Nestlé's Lion Bar is no serious contender. Years ago, when Esso decided to put a tiger in our tanks, they started one of the most enduring advertising campaigns ever, and probably the most successful commercial association between a big cat and a specific product. The tiger implied strength and quality, and that little bit of unexplained magic that is so necessary for successful motoring. The fierce killer became a friendly and even cuddly animal without losing any of its potency.
Married,
the Esso Tiger has lately
like
become
any proud
environmentally friendly.
worried about
She
the world in which his
is now
children
seen
will
with
be
her
growing up.
cubs, promoting unleaded
No wonder
petrol.
then that Esso were the first to have unleaded at every service station. And no wonder you'll still find Esso ahead of the game in cutting down petrol emissions. Our friend here has always meant the very best in performance. Now he means a whole lot more. A new generation of Esso for every new generation.
The friendly Esso Tiger heralded another advertising success, namely Tony the Tiger, though Kellogg's may argue that point. Tony has for many years served Kellogg's well, promoting one of their breakfast cereals. Also here is the big cat, friendly and cuddly, but underlying is what the advertisers are fully aware of: the association with power, vitality, and all the other attributes we give to the tiger. It may be myth, but it does sell breakfast cereal. The big cats even influence man's vanity. Their sexy image particularly attractive to the fashion industry. Literally thousands of leopards, jaguars, and ocelots were slaughtered for their fur in a naive attempt to transfer the animal's sex appeal to the wearer. Fortunately, there is now a universal ban on this fur trade. However, the popularity of these furs are such that manufacturers have gone to great lengths to develop almost perfect textile and PVC imitations. Whilst the use of imitations was initially considered rather gauche, the last few years have seen the fashion industry adopting them with some enthusiasm. Historical similarities spring to mind. When the cave dweller some 14,000 years ago laboriously etched his picture of lions into the hard walls of his primitive home, we may presume that the purpose was partly to allay the fear of this frightening predator that not only dominated the food chain, but preyed on man himself. So, when he embraced the prehistoric cat, it established a relationship between man and the big felines that is as potent today as it was then. Throughout this program, just a few examples of this link have been discussed. Still, there are strong indications that, despite changing form, the essence of man's relationship with Panthera has remained very much the same over the millennia. The lions adorning Tutankhamun's funeral bed or throne served very much the same purpose as the lions in the coat of arms of Norway. Are the feline qualities of Hathor fundamentally different from the tiger tank? The strutting Emperor Commodus can be considered a kindred spirit to any woman walking down Hollywood Boulevard displaying her new ocelot coat. And the golden Aztec leopard is as precious as Cartier's bejeweled cats made for the Duchess of Windsor. Noble, strong, intelligent, brave, elegant, ferocious. Whatever characteristics we give the big cat, they're all based on the original fear of a dangerous predator, the respect born of that fear and the need of appeasement. And myths were created to serve that need, and to a degree it did, but only in the rationale. Cuddly tigers and friendly lions notwithstanding, the cornerstone in man's relation with the big cats has not changed fundamentally. In fact, this could be the very reason that it has survived till today. It poses the question, how much has man really changed?
Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What amid, what dread grasp, dare its deadly terror clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?